A huge storm is currently impacting the United States, and this storm has taken a huge turn. It is anticipated to bring blizzard conditions to areas like the Midwest and the Central Plains for the next several hours, but it is also now expected to bring a significant threat for severe weather later this afternoon for parts of the Midwest and even some isolated severe weather into the deep south. In addition to that, we are monitoring another big storm as we go into this weekend that could bring even more severe weather in addition to some much colder weather. So in today's forecast, we are going to break down exactly what you need to know about the weather that'll be impacting the United States over the next 7 days. And we'll begin with what's happening across the country today. And we do have a big storm system centered right over the Midwest and also the Central Plains. All of this right here, for the most part, is snow that is falling from northern Kansas all the way back into northern Iowa. Conditions on the roadways are very, very bad right now due to all the snow that's falling, in addition to wind gusts around 40 to 60 miles per hour. It is leading to widespread blizzard conditions this morning. And then back over in the Midwest and the Ohio Valley, for right now, things are quiet, but that's going to change later this afternoon as we are anticipating severe weather to ramp up, especially in areas like Illinois, Indiana, and even Wisconsin. And then back over on the West Coast, a little bit of rain activity, mainly in northern Washington and also back into northern California, but generally speaking, not nearly as significant as what we've been dealing with recently in those areas when it comes to the atmospheric river events. Now let's talk more about the severe weather potential for today, and the Storm Prediction Center now has an enhanced risk of severe weather in place in central and eastern Illinois for later today. And guess what? This is actually driven by tornadoes. And then also we have a slight risk for northern Illinois, southwestern Michigan, western Ohio, and nearly the entire state of Indiana. And marginal threat goes from Michigan and Iowa all the way back down into Mississippi and Alabama. We are likely going to be live later today, so make sure that you are subscribed to the channel and click the bell icon so you're notified when we do go live for this potential tornado event that's going to be taking place in the Midwest. Our main concern will be damaging winds and large hail for most of the region. However, again, the enhanced risk and even most of the slight risk is driven by the risk of tornadoes. So make sure that you have multiple ways to receive alerts and have a tornado action plan ready to go. We are anticipating a possible strong tornado risk as well in central and eastern Illinois. So we would not rule out in today's environment an EF2 type tornado in some area here across central and eastern Illinois. So definitely a day that you want to make sure that you are taking seriously across the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. So today's tornado threat has been uptrending quite a bit, and this right here is the significant tornado parameter values. This is pretty important because as we go into the early afternoon hours, we are going to begin to see more wind shear and instability growing across parts of northern and central Illinois. And the biggest reason why is because we're going to have a lot of daylight heating, and we aren't forecasting much convection, which means that this is just going to continue to grow as we go into the afternoon hours. Now, I think the tornado risk will begin on the low side of things until about 3 to 4 p.m. Central Time. And then after that, I think it starts to spark up much more across parts of eastern Illinois and also western Indiana, where there will be likely at least a few tornadoes this afternoon, as long as not any sort of crazy convection develops prior to all these storms firing off. And then eventually by 5 to 6 o'clock, this tornado threat is definitely moving more into Indiana and even southwestern Michigan. By around 8 to 9 o'clock, I think our tornado risk starts to drop off quite a bit. So I think our peak tornado risk for today will basically be from about 3 p.m. until about 8 p.m. Central Time, mostly in Illinois and Indiana, but wouldn't rule out a brief tornado somewhere in western Ohio, southwestern Michigan, or even into parts of northern Kentucky. Now let's talk more about the timing for severe weather, beginning with this morning. Again, not really much out there. Right around 1 to 2 o'clock this afternoon, that is when storms will begin to fire off, mainly in western and northern Illinois. These are not too concerning, I think, until about 2 to 3 o'clock, when we are going to be seeing a little bit of large hail, some damaging winds, and if this can become a bit more surface-based, there is a chance for an isolated tornado. And I wouldn't even rule out a tornado there in eastern Iowa right around 2 to 3 o'clock. That'll be an area also to watch for. Eventually, as we get closer to 4 o'clock, notice how storms continue here in northern Illinois. There are going to be some of them that are rotating, producing the potential again for an isolated tornado, but our greatest tornado threat should be right around 4 to 6 o'clock, mainly in eastern and northeastern Illinois, right around the Chicago suburbs, and also back over in areas like Bloomington and Champaign, where there will be a potential for an isolated tornado or two. Strong tornadoes definitely in play. By 6 to 7 o'clock, these storms continue to move into the Chicago area. Wouldn't even rule out a tornado somewhere near Chicago as well. It's not impossible with today's environment. Further off to the east, there will be a few storms that fire off also in western and central Indiana. Unfortunately, over the last few hours, Indiana's tornado risk has also been uptrending a little bit, Let's hope that changes, but right now it looks like we could even have a time frame between 5 to 8 o'clock where there is a couple of tornadoes possible in central and western Indiana. Eventually, by around 8 to 9 o'clock, just after sunset, these storms are going to start to weaken, and then by 10 to 11 o'clock, I'm not really expecting much severe weather to be left over, but a very low-end tornado risk will still exist back over into southern Michigan and western Ohio sometime around 9 to 10 o'clock. But I think after 10, we're pretty much done with the severe weather risk. And then further down to the south and east, there will not be nearly as much severe weather for those in Kentucky and Tennessee, but I wouldn't rule out some downburst winds, damaging winds, and a little bit of large hail being possible from areas like western Kentucky back into Mississippi. Generally speaking, this will not be anywhere near what we're expecting today in Illinois or Indiana. Tornado risk is not really existent since these storms are going to be very weak in nature, but there is again a chance for a little bit of damaging wind potential before eventually colder air ushers into the southeast as we go into tomorrow. Now, this isn't all that this storm is bringing. We also have a huge blizzard that is happening across the central plains in the Midwest, and there's also a lot of thunder snow that has been happening this morning in Kansas and Nebraska. This snow is going to continue to move into Iowa as we go later into the morning hours and eventually moving into Wisconsin, where blizzard conditions will really ramp up. Notice how heavy that snow is. All those dark blues indicating very heavy snowfall, and then account for the winds. This is just a very dangerous situation today from Kansas back into Wisconsin. As we go into the afternoon, the heaviest of the snow will be moving across the Kansas and Missouri border, central Iowa, and also back into central Wisconsin, while we also have tornadoes happening back over in Illinois. It's very crazy how close all of this is happening to each other. Eventually, by the evening hours, that snow is actually going to be moving into Iowa, Missouri, western Illinois. Even areas like Illinois will deal with snow, even potentially after tornadoes happen today. So we could be dealing with snow during the late evening and into the overnight hours in Illinois, about 6 hours later than our tornado warnings are going to be happening. So very crazy turnaround there. Make sure that you're ready for that. It's going to get very cold very quickly after these storms move through. Eventually, by tomorrow morning, that snow is moving through Michigan, Indiana, and even into parts of Ohio. However, it is much lighter as it moves into areas like Ohio and even Kentucky. Could even see a few snowflakes back over in Tennessee or even northern Georgia tomorrow morning as well. And then eventually, as we go into tomorrow night, that snow is moving into the northeast. Not really expecting much accumulation if you're back in the northeast unless you are in far northern New England in the higher elevations. Also, there could be a few isolated severe storms tomorrow afternoon, mainly in eastern Virginia and eastern North Carolina. Not expecting anything like today, but some damaging winds, isolated hail will be possible. So in terms of total snowfall accumulation, we are still on track to see 8 to 12 inches of snow in a very large area from eastern Nebraska into northwest Iowa and into southeastern Minnesota, even back up into Wisconsin and the upper peninsula of Michigan. We are likely going to see at least around 6 to 10 inches of snowfall in those areas. And then back over northern Illinois, yes, you could also see tornadoes in addition to 1 to 3 inches of snowfall accumulation today. That is actually crazy. I mean, we're literally going 4 seasons within the span of not even 24 hours. It's pretty crazy stuff. Also, parts of Michigan could also see around 1 to 3 inches of snowfall. While all of this is happening, winds are going to be very high throughout the daytime today. Notice that we're going to have wind gusts upwards of 70 miles per hour in Nebraska and Kansas. Winds even in the 40s to 50s, even back over in areas like Oklahoma and Texas, which is going to lead to elevated fire conditions. As we go into late tonight, the winds will be very strong across areas in the Ohio Valley and even back into the deep south, with wind gusts ranging from 30 to 50 miles per hour. Things calm down a little bit as we go into tomorrow, but they are still going to be strong across the northeast and all the way back through the southeast, with widespread wind gusts around 20 to 35 miles per hour. Definitely could see some flying trampolines out there. So our fire risk for the next few days continues to stay elevated and critical across most of Texas and Oklahoma, and even back over in the Appalachian Mountain Range. We are also expecting an elevated fire risk. As we go into tomorrow, that fire risk is mainly over New Mexico and West Texas. By Friday, it goes elevated again and even critical in some areas in Oklahoma and also the Texas Panhandle. And by Saturday, it's a much smaller area, but still a fire risk in Texas until we start to see rain return. We've had a very below average month so far when it comes to rainfall for most of Texas and even Oklahoma and also back into New Mexico. So after this powerful storm system moves through the United States, we are going to quiet down for Friday and Saturday, but we are going to ramp right back up as we go into Sunday with another big storm system moving through the Midwest with snowfall, and there will also be severe weather possible back over in East Texas and even into northern Mississippi. As we go into Sunday, the Storm Prediction Center already has a slight risk of severe weather in place for parts of the Deep South, and I think honestly Sunday is more than likely going to be driven towards hail and wind rather than a significant tornado risk, but tornadoes are still going to probably be possible on Sunday with the wind shear that we have. As we go into Monday, the risk of severe weather much lower, really not much happening. And then by Tuesday into Wednesday, things are a little bit quieter, but I don't think it's going to be that quiet for that long. I think by the end of March, if not even into the early portion of April, we are going to start to see some more big storms again. But at this point, it's too early to tell where those will happen and exactly what will happen. Make sure you stay tuned to the channel. Make sure you're subscribed down below, as we'll be the first to let you know with any big changes that happen to any upcoming storms. And we'll have a much more detailed video tomorrow talking about that big storm system as we go into Sunday as well as into Monday. And don't forget, our 1 million subscriber merch is still out at shopmaxvelocity.net. This is one of the best ways to support our channel and what we do here. If you want to check it out, it's the top link in the description below. We still have signed hats available in addition to t-shirts, mugs, stickers, and much more. Again, you can check this out at shopmaxvelocity.net.